everyone. Today we are going to have a discussion regarding employee and intellectual property. So according to the Copyright Act, the author of a work initially owns the copyright under Section 10. However, under subsection 6 of Section 27, if the work is commissioned by someone who is not author's employer or created during author's course of employment, the copyright is considered transferred to the person who commissioned the work or the author's employer. However, there's still a lot of other factors to be considered. So Manya, what do you think?
So from this situation, the first thing that we need to confirm is whether it is on the job scope laid out in the employment contract. An employment contract is a legally binding document between an employer and employee that outlines the terms and conditions of their work relationship. Additionally, the job scope and duties of the employee are sufficiently clarified and specific, with the job scope adequately described to include a duty to produce certain products, process, or create content. For example, from the case of Stephenson, Jordan, and Harrison, the plaintiff there contend that the ownership of a literary work, a book titled Flexible Budgetary Control and Standard Cost, written by a previous employee of the plaintiff company, Mr. Evans Hemmings, who had passed away at the times of dispute, would assign the copyright of the work to the defendant publishing company, belong to the plaintiff. But the UK Court of Appeal found that the writing was not part of the duties of Mr. Evans Hemmings with the plaintiff, and therefore ownership of the book remains with Mr. Evans Hemmings. Based on this case, it is shown that the scope of employment of an employee is a pertinent factor in determining if a copyright work belongs to the employee, author, or the employer. That's all from me. What's about you, Sophia?
Hi, my name is Sophia, and I think that when a person creates intellectual property while working for a firm, especially if it relates to the business or makes use of the company resources, employers frequently claim ownership of such creation. The first ownership rule, which emphasizes that works made by employees during their employment are often owned by the employer, may be followed determining ownership. For example, the case of Syarikat Faizal Sendirian Berhad and Anor versus Faiz Rais Sendirian Berhad and Anor in 2017 tested the first ownership rule. The second defendant, who was the general manager of the first plaintiff, agreed that he owned the copyrights for certain works, including the design of rice packages, because they were not created during his employment. However, the court disagreed. Since the first plaintiff's business focused on trading in rice products, the court found it unlikely that the second defendant, one of the original creators, would have made these works for any purpose other than the first plaintiff's business. Therefore, the court concluded that the works were likely created during the second defendant's employment as the general manager of the first plaintiff. Consequently, the employer may be entitled to the project's results if the side project is determined to have been developed during the employment. That's all from me. What do you think, Quek?
So I'm Quek. What happens if the court ruled in favor of the employer? What happens to the whole side project, the copyright of other authors? So to answer this question, we have to define what is meant by separable contribution. According to Donovan and Hall Advocates and Solicitors, a project is deemed separable if it fulfills two elements. One is the work is produced by the collaboration of two or more authors, and also the contribution of each author is separable. So to give an example to illustrate this, consider a book that is a compilation of essays written by different authors. So what happens to the copyright of other authors if one of the authors lost his or her copyright to some other party? So basically, the copyright of other authors will not be affected. So in our case, because the side project consists of several blocks of codes written by different people, so if one of the person who wrote one of the block of codes lost his or her copyright to the employer, the whole side project won't, the copyright of other authors won't be lost to the employer. Only the block of code written by the author itself, written by the employee basically. So
to summarize, despite all of the factors mentioned earlier, the employment terms will still be prioritized first. So it's advised that companies create employment contracts that states the scope of parties' rights relating to the intellectual property rights of work created according to a specific employment or commission for better governance of the party relations in the workplace. That's all.